How English builds words. 6 patterns you can actually use. Look at unreadable. It may feel like one long block, but your eyes can learn to see 3 jobs: un, read, and able. English builds words in several ways. We will follow 6: derivation, compounding, blending, clipping, abbreviation, and conversion. The goal is not to guess every word. It is to form a useful hypothesis, test it in context, and know when to check a dictionary. Derivation. Start with a puzzle. Water is one of the most ordinary English words. German Wasser is related to it. Yet technical water words often contain hydra or aqua. Why does English keep several routes to a similar idea? English grew from a Germanic base, then borrowed heavily from French, Latin, Greek, and many other languages. So this is not a neat choice between 2 vocabularies. It is a layered history. Different roots can survive beside one another. The Greek element hydge appears in hydrate and hydrous. The Latin element ak appears in aquatic and aquarium. The everyday word water follows another historical root. They overlap in meaning, but they are not interchangeable building blocks. The same pattern appears in familiar actions. You see, hear, and eat. Inside other words, related borrowed elements appear. This in visible, aud in audible, and ed in edible. A root is the central historical element of a word family. A base is the form you can attach something to now. Those ideas often overlap, but not always. For a learner, the practical question is simple. Which part carries the family meaning and which part changes it? This is a little like noticing a recurring component in another writing system, but the analogy has limits. English letters do not work like Chinese radicals. A shared spelling can be meaningful, accidental, or the result of a complicated history. Use the pattern as evidence, not as permission to invent. When hydr appears in a scientific word, water is a strong clue. When 3 letters merely look familiar, keep the claim provisional. Write the clue first, then let a sentence and a dictionary decide how far it reaches. Here is the learner habit to build. Group visible, vision, and visual as a family. Then notice that the shared form changes slightly. Do not demand perfectly identical letters. Ask whether meaning, form, and recorded history support the link. A family is useful because each known member helps you recognize another, not because one tiny code reveals a complete definition. Now split a derived word. Keep vis fixed. Add ible after it, and visible lands as an adjective. Something can be seen. The ending is a suffix because it attaches after the base. Change the ending, and the grammatical job can change. Visible is an adjective. Visibility is a noun. The family relation remains, while the suffix helps signal the word class. Suffixes often help form nouns, adjectives, verbs, or adverbs. Think of useful, usefulness, simplify, and quickly. In usefulness, useful stays recognizable while ness forms a noun. In quickly, ly helps form an adverb. Often is the important word. A suffix is a clue, not a guarantee that every word ending alike has the same analysis. A prefix attaches before the base. Add in to visible, audible, and edible. The results are invisible, inaudible, and inedible. Not able to be seen, heard, or eaten. Prefixes often guide meaning without changing the word class. Visible and invisible are both adjectives, but prefixes can do other work. In enlarge, helps make a verb, meaning to make something larger. Your turn. In unavoidable, point to the prefix, the base, and the suffix. Un adds a negative idea. Avoid carries the central meaning. Able forms an adjective. Now compare avoidable and unavoidable. The suffix keeps the grammatical job stable, while the prefix reverses the practical judgment. Read the parts, then read the whole word in a sentence. That last step matters. Morphology narrows the possibilities. Context selects the intended meaning. Structure and context work together. If the sentence contradicts your first analysis, revise it. The visible parts are evidence, but the complete word in use is the final object you must learn. Try a second family. Happy, unhappy, and unhappiness. Happy is an adjective. Un reverses the meaning in unhappy. Ness forms the noun unhappiness, and the spelling changes from Y to I. The parts help you predict a relationship, but you still learn the full spelling and the sentence pattern. Her unhappiness was obvious. Word parts help, but they do not behave like unlimited Lego pieces. English has able and able adjectives: workable, acceptable, remarkable, credible, flexible, and possible. There are patterns, but no short rule predicts every spelling safely. Here is a useful correction. Ineffable is common enough to meet in serious writing. It means difficult or impossible to express in words. Effable, meaning capable of being expressed, is also a real dictionary word, but it is rare. Existing is not the same as being a normal choice. Negative in also changes its surface form. Before some sounds, it appears as im, ill, or impossible, illegal, irregular. The meaning relation stays stable while the form adjusts. But in can also mean in or into, as in inward and inscribe. So identical spelling does not promise identical meaning, and similar spelling does not promise the same root. This helps explain visible. It does not explain viscous, which means thick and sticky. Keep the evidence, but break the false connection. Complex words can stack more than one piece. Start with struct, a family element connected with building. Trace construct, then structure. Add a noun-forming ending for construction. Add re for reconstruct. Add l for structural. Each operation changes one part while the family remains visible. Longer forms are possible. Constructional and geostructural are attested in specialized contexts, but length alone does not make a word useful. An imaginable combination may be rare, awkward, or absent. Check the word, its field, and a real example before you adopt it. Suffixes can also change spelling. Structure loses its final e before al and becomes structural. Red doubles its final consonant before ish and becomes reddish. These are patterns worth noticing, but English spelling still contains lexical and historical exceptions. Pentagon is another place to avoid a tempting story. Do not imagine modern English taking pent, adding a repair vowel, then attaching gon. The recorded history comes through Greek penta, meaning 5, plus an element connected with angle. The a belongs to that inherited combining form. Maintenance is related to maintain, and description is related to describe. Yet their spellings are not just modern English speakers changing letters for easier pronunciation. The words carry older French and Latin histories. A modern family can be real even when the historical path is not simple addition. Return to the water family. Hydrate and aquatic both point toward water, but through different routes. Knowing hyd does not let you replace ak, and neither one replaces ordinary water. Word formation is a network of families, not a universal codebook. Practice the guardrail. Look at a new word. First, mark a possible prefix, base, or a suffix. Second, state only the clue the parts support. Third, read the sentence. Fourth, verify the word and usage. A careful hypothesis is more useful than a confident invention. Apply those steps to reconstructible. Re suggests again. Construct supplies the building family. Able forms an adjective. Your cautious hypothesis is able to be constructed again. Now test it in a real sentence. If speakers use a different word for that context, the sentence and dictionary should override your first construction. Also, separate word formation from inflection. Walk and walker are different lexical items. The suffix creates a noun for a person. Walk and walked are grammatical forms of the same verb. Both involve endings, but they answer different questions. This course follows new words and new word class uses, not every grammatical ending. Compounding changes the construction. Instead of attaching a bound affix, English combines two or more bases. Water and fall remain recognizable inside waterfall. The first base usually narrows the second. A waterfall is a kind of fall involving water. The same family gives waterproof and underwater. Waterproof describes something that keeps water out. Underwater describes a location or condition below the surface. The grammatical result depends on the full construction, not only on the first word. Compounds can be closed, hyphenated, or open. You may see notebook, well-known, and car park. The spaces and hyphens differ, but each expression still acts as one established lexical unit. Do not guess the spacing from meaning alone. A reliable dictionary records the normal written form and regional differences. Now compare readable and legible. Both can concern successful reading, but they are not perfect twins. Legible often focuses on whether writing or print is clear enough to recognize. Readable can also describe prose that is easy or enjoyable to read. Audible is the normal adjective for a sound you can hear. Hearable is recorded in dictionaries, but it is uncommon. Word formation can produce or preserve a possible form without making it the usual choice. Your turn. Split greenhouse, smartphone, and raincoat into bases. Then ask what the first base contributes and what kind of thing the whole compound names. Meaning can become specialized. A greenhouse is not simply any house that is green. A blackbird names a particular kind of bird, while a blackbird can describe any bird with black feathers. Whole compound usage matters, so learn the established unit and not only the sum of its parts. A blend also begins with existing words, but it trims them before joining. Breakfast and lunch overlap into brunch. Keep both source words visible, remove the unused letters, and watch the survivors meet. Smoke plus fog gives smog. Web plus seminar gives webinar. Motor plus hotel gives motel. Web plus log gives blog. The exact cut is not governed by one formula. Speakers favor a result they can say and recognize, and the new form must become established through use. That separates blends from ordinary compounds. In raincoat, both bases remain whole. In smog, neither source word survives whole. The learner operation is visual. Identify the source words, then trace the letters that remain. Try infotainment. Which two source words contributed material? Information supplies the beginning. Entertainment supplies the ending. The blend carries parts of both forms and both meanings. A clever-looking split is still only a hypothesis. Confirm the origin before repeating a story about a brand name or a playful coinage. One more practice item is spork. Spoon contributes its beginning, and fork contributes its ending. Because both sources are trimmed, spork is a blend. If the result kept spoon and fork whole, it would look like a compound instead. Clipping shortens one longer word. Telephone becomes phone. Examination becomes exam. Application becomes app. The shorter form keeps the central reference while some sounds and letters disappear. The surviving piece can come from different places. Influenza becomes flu by losing material at both ends. Refrigerator becomes fridge with a spelling adjustment that preserves the familiar sound. Mathematics becomes math in American English and maths in British English. Region and register can determine which clipping sounds normal. Clipping is not the same as a blend. App comes from one source word. Brunch combines material from two. Count the source words before you classify the result. Classify these: lab, ad, flu, and webinar. Lab, ad, and flu are clippings. Webinar is a blend. Some clippings begin as informal forms and later become ordinary vocabulary. Photo from photograph and gym from gymnasium now feel completely normal. A dictionary can tell you whether a clipping is standard, regional, technical, or still casual. Abbreviation is the larger category. For multi-word names, an initialism is pronounced as letter names. VIP begins with very important person, and speakers normally say VIP. An acronym is pronounced as a word. Radar comes from radio detecting and ranging. Its letters are initials, but the result is spoken as radar, not RDR. IELTS and TOEFL name English tests. Their pronunciations behave more like words than a simple sequence of every letter. The full names explain the letters, but usage decides how a shortened name is actually said. Listen before you classify from spelling alone. Sort NASA, FBI, and VIP. NASA is an acronym. FBI and VIP are initialisms. The useful test is not capitalization. It is how the form is pronounced. Not every abbreviation creates a new spoken word. Doctor shortens doctor in writing, but speakers still say doctor. Keep written abbreviations, initialisms, and acronyms separate when pronunciation is the learning question. Conversion changes a word's grammatical job without adding an affix. Compare. Leaves fall in autumn. That was a bad fall. The form fall stays, but one sentence uses a verb and the other uses a noun. Modern English does this constantly. I sent an email uses email as a noun. Please email me uses it as a verb. A text and to text work the same way. A spelling change is not required. That is why educate is the wrong example here. It was already recorded in English in the 15th century and comes through Latin history. Education and educate are related, but that relationship is not zero-change conversion. Your turn. In we bottled the water, what was converted? Bottle moved from a noun naming a container to a verb naming the action. The sentence reveals the new job. Try chair. The chair is near the window uses a noun. She will chair the meeting uses a verb, meaning lead. The spelling does not move. The grammatical frame does. A learner's dictionary normally labels both jobs and supplies separate examples. Return to the 6 operations. Unreadable is derivation. Raincoat is compounding. Brunch is blending. Exam is clipping. Radar is an acronym. To email is conversion. Now use the method. In, the label was unreadable. Split, un, read, and able. Hypothesize, not able to be read. Test that meaning in the sentence. Then verify spelling, pronunciation, and normal usage in a reliable dictionary. Word formation does not remove vocabulary study. It makes that study more connected. You remember families, see grammatical clues, and notice when a story needs evidence. The strongest learner is not the fastest guesser. It is the learner who can use a clue, revise a hypothesis, and keep the correct form. Final check. Reusable is derivation. Toothpaste is a compound. Spork is a blend. Photo is a clipping. NASA is an acronym. To chair a meeting is conversion. Name the visible evidence for each answer. Then choose one unfamiliar word this week and run the same careful process. If you want to learn more and practice systematically, download Lexioo. Reading, writing, speaking, and pronunciation are all in one place. Scan the code and I'll see you there.